I want to give a shout out to my new patron, Spencer Roussel. Thank you so much for your donation.
Welcome to the world of Tales from the Trip.
Alright, I've always wanted to do a video like this. I thought that I should let you know I'm focusing solely on the AM-2201 synthetic cannabinoid. AM-2201 is extremely potent and is more potent than the more popular JWH-018, so I thought I'd choose these stories because I thought they would be crazy, which they are. So sit back, turn off the lights, and enjoy these stories. For my age, I am a very experienced drug user. It should be said, I am prescribed 8 milligrams of Suboxone per day and take the occasional benzodiazepine. Aside from these, my involvement with a local court dictates that I abstain from marijuana, so about a year ago, I turned to synthetic cannabinoids. My friend ordered pure JWH-018 from an internet vendor about a year ago. He and I smoked at least 3 times a day for almost 8 months. I had a few intense, unpleasurable experiences, including mild panic attacks. These included thoughts of impending doom, severe paranoia, and other mentally unpleasant side effects. As bad as they were, nothing I experienced at that point made me seriously consider stopping them. About a week ago, A told me he got Search. That's what we call research chemicals, and that it was much stronger than JWH-018. Excited, I purchased a gram from him yesterday morning. Last night, I put about 10 milligrams on the end of a cigarette and smoked it. The effects were quite similar to JWH-018, and I had a nice time watching Super Jail on TV. Although, this story is not over. I woke up at about 4 a.m. this morning, feeling fine. I took a piss and decided to smoke again before I went back to sleep. The following is an account of the worst experience of my life. I dipped the cigarette into my baggie, filling the open end with about 18 to 20 milligrams of pure AM-2201. Leaning out the window, I pull hard on the cig, knowing how quickly synthetic cannabinoids combust and disappear. I held in the smoke for about 15 seconds. 20 minutes in, I wake up, my shoulder is fully dislocated, and I am utterly terrified. I guess wake up is the wrong term. I was definitely having some form of seizure. The Doors lyric comes to mind, lost in a wilderness of pain. I was completely convinced that I was a skeleton, and my bones were all dislocated and I was paralyzed. I distinctly remember looking to my right and seeing my pelvic bone, covered in blood, lying a few feet from my head. 21 minutes in. I am obviously still in psychosis, but my dad shows up downstairs in his underwear, not a hallucination, and somehow I recognize him. Seeing him does not free me from the insanity though. He tries to hold me down, and I see my arm bones in his hand. Keep in mind that I actually did dislocate my shoulder while rolling around on the floor, so the intense pain probably contributed to the nature of my hallucinations. This sight makes me panic worse. 30 minutes in, I am pleading with my parents to put my body back together. At this point, my parents told me that my eyes were rolling in the back of my head and I was thrashing about violently while screaming at them to help me. My dad is holding my bones together so that I don't fall apart. I cannot explain adequately the feeling of terror. Somehow, my body had been reduced to just bones that were not connected by anything. I remember shutting my eyes as tightly as possible and focusing on my heart to make sure it was still there. I started paying attention to my heart and began to think it was going to stop beating. I told my parents that I love them and that I'm sorry I killed myself like this. By the time the paramedics arrived, every muscle in my body was as rigid as a board, and I thought I was paralyzed. I was still convinced that I would die when I noticed the lady putting a pin in my arm, which I could not feel. 2 hours in, I woke up in the hospital, still terrified, but gaining composure. I am convinced that the AM-2201 led directly to some kind of seizure fit. My parents are scarred. My mother said, verbatim, "Michael, that was the worst thing that I can ever imagine happening to my child. That was almost as bad as if you had been decapitated right in front of me." The exorcism cannot touch what I went through last night. I would much rather be possessed by Satan than have another seizure fit from AM-2201. Non-experienced synthetic cannabinoid users beware. Extreme danger lurks behind this drug. I cannot imagine a more psychologically damaging experience resulting from drug use. AM-2201 is a highly potent synthetic cannabinoid to be used with caution. To provide some background on my use of substances, I have dabbled in a little of everything. Tons and tons of weed, coke, molly, shitty beans from the ghetto, LSD, ketamine, shrooms, salvia, nitrous, DMT, and the list goes on. In the past few months, as I was arrested for a DUI and possession charge back in July, I have consumed in upwards of 10 grams of JWH-018. I have also smoked the 073, 122, 081, 200, 210, and 250 variants. I had very recently acquired AM-2201 from an online vendor, knowing that it was supposed to be roughly 3 times the potency of JWH-018, with much higher binding affinities to both CB1 and CB2 receptors. I dosed my first hit roughly 15 milligrams. I do not own a milligram scale, stupid I know, but my extensive research with the JWH compounds led me to believe that this would be like getting high the first few times I smoked JWH. I inhaled the vapor and immediately began to feel vibrations in my body. 25 seconds in, extreme lethargy overcomes me. I feel as though I weigh 800 pounds. 1 minute in, so extremely tired, an uneasy feeling is building in the back of my head. 2 minutes in, my heart begins racing. Sweat forms on my palms, and I have a mild anxiety attack. 5 minutes in, I'm trying to calm myself down as I realize that I've consumed too much of the substance. 20 minutes in, I fall asleep. I then slept for about 3 hours. The body load I got from AM-2201 was unreal. It felt almost like I couldn't even move. Later that evening, my friends from my hometown wanted to try it. Being only a few minutes away, I agreed to come in and share some of this research chemical, warning them that it was far more potent than the JWH compounds. Once I arrived at B's house, 5 other people wanted to try the substance as well. I loaded everyone a hit, roughly 10 to 12 milligrams. Using the same pipe, B hit it first, followed by J, D, P, and then C. Immediately, I noticed J making extremely strange facial movements and noises. A minute after they took the hit, 3 of my friends, J, D, and P, all dropped to the floor. They were fucking blacked out cold. Jay was screaming and acting psychotically, screaming at the top of his lungs, "I died! What in the fuck? I love you guys!" He was thrashing about uncontrollably, slamming his head into the wall several times. D was out cold, hitting his head on the floor. His breathing depressed and his heart rate increased. P fell onto the couch and started shaking so violently it appeared to be a seizure. A few seconds later, vomit erupted from his mouth, and I had to slam him onto his stomach on the floor. All three of them began vomiting and had trouble breathing. B and C were both high, but were helping me attempt to calm them down. All three of the researchers had extreme looks of physical pain once they came out of the immediate stupor of vomiting and clenching every muscle in their body. The next 30 minutes or so was spent holding their heads up so that they would breathe and not choke on their vomit. Jay wouldn't be quiet and continued screaming and thrashing about. I ended up calling my best friend for backup, as this entire experience was a train wreck. He said he could hear screaming from way out in the parking lot of the complex. In all, they were completely out of it for about an hour and experienced after confusion for another hour or so. What worried me the most was how they completely lost consciousness within a minute of the dose. Hours later, I let my friend G try 5 milligrams of it, thinking since he was so large, 6 foot, 280 pounds, and relatively experienced with JWH compounds, that he would be alright. He looked pale and sick within seconds after taking the hit. He began saying confused and jumbled words, and within 5 minutes, he too blacked out. I caught him with all my might and called another person over to help. I laid him on the floor, and after a minute or two of lying down, he jumps up and resumes his position against the sink. He never vomited, but noted he had a horrible experience and scared everyone with how fucked up he was. I believe these reactions were almost mini seizures, caused by AM-2201's ability to bind the CB1 and CB2 receptors with ridiculous binding affinities. With a Ki of 1.0 nm at CB1 and 2.6 nm at CB2, this potent cannabinoid was dosed entirely too high for my amateur research friends. The GABA synapses were probably slowed to the point of unconsciousness and seizing. Just be warned, this chemical is only for those with high tolerances. It is very likely that someone else would react the same way to the substance like my friends did. They hold the possibility of severe injury to themselves or others. Research safely, my friends. If anyone else dabbles in research with this chemical, dose low. I'm talking about 1 milligram, maybe even 500 UG. Hey, it's the Trip Keeper here. I just wanted to talk about that last story. Why the fuck would he give that one friend who came over a dose after what just fucking happened to his other friends? I don't understand that. This guy just seems like a fucking idiot. I don't know. You tell me in the comments. Alright, on to the next story. I received a gram of the legal AM-2201 synthetic cannabinoid from a highly reputable source. It appeared as a fine white powder with maybe just a hint of tan. After reading and researching online quite a bit, it was clear that the normal dosage is somewhere from 0.5 milligrams to 2 milligrams at most. But it was clear that the normal dosage is somewhere between 0.5 milligrams to 2 milligrams at most, and that a higher dosage usually results in a highly intensive LSD-like psychedelic experience. That's what I tried to achieve. Before and during taking this substance, I hadn't consumed any other medical substances, and the last one was dried Salvia divinorum leaves a couple days earlier. 6:15 p.m. I take the cover on my window down to keep it dark. I keep my door open as I'm alone at home. I prepare the bong and pad the bowl with some ash I had from previous sessions. I measure an exact 250 milligrams and I stack it up. Using a butane lighter, I smoke the bowl. This takes me several hits due to the high amounts of powder. As soon as I finish exhaling the last one, I feel a little lightheaded. I stand up when I suddenly realize that there is a serious lag or delay between what I'm actually doing and what I'm seeing. I move my hand and only see it a couple of seconds later. My heart starts pounding so fast and so hard, it doesn't feel real. I decided to walk out of the room, but I turn around to get back to bed when I suddenly feel my body tingling. As soon as I turn around, time freezes, and the only thing still going on is the sound of me screaming for help in the background. As of that moment, I no longer know who I am, where I am, and what is real. The next thing I remember is seeing a 2D world made of colors splashing around. I am part of this world and have no physical form. I wonder to myself, is this really my life? Was there anything before? If so, was it all a dream? The colors melt and disappear. This makes me somewhat understand something is happening. The thought is echoing in my mind. I proceed, and I am reborn to another life where everything is made of colorful lines. It feels as if I was born, got old, and died of age when I proceeded to another world made of random patterns and a big red light blinking in the center of it. The thought that something is happening is back, and I'm starting to understand where I am. The big red light blinking is my heart beating, and I have a physical form. I wonder if I am asleep, and if so, why am I not waking up? I feel as if my entire body is pressed against some hard surface. I later understand I managed to get to bed, and I'm actually lying down with my face pressed against the bed. I move a finger and feel it, but I can't really see anything. The rebirth and dying is happening again and again, as if it happened a million times. And each time, only a small detail changes. Only now, I realize that I'm going through some kind of seizure, but I don't remember I've taken anything, or even who I am. So I try to get up, when all of a sudden, I see my room, only for a second. I must have got up and managed to sit down, because now I can see parts of my room. I am still reborn again and again, and every other moment I get a little lucid and understand where I am, only to sink back into the dream and forget all about it. I start seeing more and more of my room, piece by piece. I feel sick and my mouth is dry. I look for my phone so I could call for help, but I sink back yet again. I find myself screaming for help, repeating the word, "Help!" again and again without any logic, as I am alone at home. I see my phone and pick it up, but I sink in again. The experience from now on is repeating itself. I get another lucid moment and see the phone in my hand. I try to call someone, and the only number I remembered was a friend of mine. I call him and scream, "Help!" many times, but he doesn't understand what is going on. I manage to say ambulance, which surprises me, as I didn't know that word or thought I had any control over what I say. The phone hangs up and I start vomiting again. I get another call and answer it. It's my friend. He's telling me to unlock the door so the paramedics could get in. I sink back in again. I get another lucid moment and manage to get all the way to the door and unlock it. I can see everything in the house, no more colors, but it doesn't seem real. I am made of Play-Doh. I sit down and wait for the medics. I try to hold myself, but as I touch my hand, the hair on it melts, and I can feel and see it pouring down my hand. At this point, all I want to do is to make it stop, even if I need to die to accomplish it. The medics and my friend arrive, and I tell them what I took and where the bag is. They start asking me questions instead of treating me, and I sink back in. I wake up in the hospital, and this is the first occurrence that I see the time since the moment I started this session. 9:55 p.m. I have no idea where I am, but I remember who I am and what happened. I'm terrified. My friend tells me I'm in the hospital and that the police are testing the material. Apparently they thought it was cocaine for some reason. 11 p.m. After taking a lot of oxygen and having people talk to me to keep me lucid, I am mostly out of it. My chest hurts so bad that I want to cry, and the doctor tells me I'm lucky I didn't have a heart attack. 1 a.m. After lying to everyone about what I felt and how much I took, the doctor decides it's safe to let me go home. I get home and I immediately fall asleep. 11 a.m. the next day. I wake up in the living room after a night of horrible nightmares, mainly of what I saw and felt while under the influence. I walk around the house and I realize that I vomited in the entrance of the house, in my room, multiple times on the bed and on the floor, and in my roommate's room, which I don't even remember visiting. 11:30 a.m. Fully awake after drinking coffee. I'm really dizzy and my head hurts, much more noticeable than the after effect of alcohol. I think I am fine and decide to write down this experience so people would be aware of the dangers. 1:47 p.m. I usually type really fast, but only now I finish typing it all. I'm still dizzy, my head still hurts, and I'm having difficulties concentrating. This was the worst day of my life. It literally felt like forever. Even if I heal, it will always leave a mental scar.